Over the past 2 weeks, the world has borne witness to the cruelty of the Israeli occupying forces and the Israeli apartheid regime. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, over 7,000 Palestinians have died already. We've seen Israeli war crimes like misusing white phosphate bombs, cutting off water and electricity to the whole of Gaza, and even deliberately bombing a Palestinian hospital, killing over 500 people. More people than ever have woken up to the reality of the Palestinian plight, and tens of thousands are taking to the streets around the world in protest. And now many are asking the question, how can I help Palestine? That's the question I'm going to try and answer today. First of all, recognize that you can make an impact. A lot of us tend to fall into the trap of thinking we can't do anything but watch this happen from the comfort of our own homes. But that just isn't true, at least in most cases. The ruling class and the capital class want you to think that you are powerless to stop the things happening around you. But you can do more than you think. Secondly, educate yourself. In order to be an effective advocate for something, you have to understand what it is you want and how to argue for it. So I'd recommend reading up on the history of this conflict as well as the root causes and whatnot. It doesn't have to be a ton of reading. I found this summary of the conflict written by Al Jazeera to be pretty helpful. I'll leave it linked in the description, just like the rest of these resources. You also have to make sure to stay educated. Every single day, the conflict develops and changes, so it's good to stay informed on new developments. However, that being said, it's important to make sure you are getting the correct information. Misinformation has been running rampant across the internet since October 7th, with a lot of fabricated stories out there that even mainstream media have been promoting. It's important to have a good source. I personally use Al Jazeera as a great non-Western media source without any sort of Western biases. They also do a good job of reporting in general and are great at creating helpful graphics that break things down. But there are plenty of lesser-known organizations that do great objective journalism on this issue. Thirdly, you can donate to the cause. Now, I understand that a lot of people are struggling financially right now and don't have money to spare, and that's okay. Understandable. But if you can, and anything helps, it's a great way to support humanitarian efforts on the ground. This is a great way to have a direct impact and save lives. Here are some of the charities that I personally would recommend. Palestinian Children's Relief Fund is the one I personally chose to donate to. They provide humanitarian aid for the children in Gaza. You can also donate to Islamic Relief, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, Medical Aid to Palestinians, the UNWRA, and there are plenty of other charities to donate to, but those are some suggestions. Fourthly, write your representatives. This is especially important for people in the West. For example, the United States donates billions to Israel every single year and is about to donate tens of billions more. But even the most pro-Israel politicians have to listen to their constituents, especially the people in their party. Because if you piss off too many of your constituents, suddenly you find yourself out of a job next election cycle. That's why people in the United States who want to help support Palestine should be writing their representatives to A, call for a ceasefire, and B, withdraw all aid to Israel until the end of apartheid and occupation. And do not be afraid to threaten to withhold your vote. And you can ultimately decide when the time comes if you want to withhold your vote or not, but at least tell them that this issue is important enough to determine how you vote. This goes for people in every country too, but I think the voice of the US constituent will be the most powerful as they pay for such a large chunk of Israel's defense budget. And most likely one letter on its own won't be enough to make the US pull its support for Israel, obviously, but the letters add up, and eventually if enough people write, politicians will get the message. And you don't even have to spend too much time on it. A lot of websites such as the one from the USCPR, which is the United States Campaign for Palestinian Rights, allow you to write a copy-pasted letter to your representative in like 2 minutes. This next one you should be careful about, but spreading the word on social media is a great way to increase public awareness. Of course, you have to be careful how and where you do this. Understand that unfortunately speaking up for Palestine can have consequences. For example, you have websites like Canary Mission actively trying to dox people who are pro-Palestine. Some employers have fired people over their support for Palestine. And if you're in a dangerous situation or precarious one, Obviously, make sure you keep yourself safe first and foremost. You also might consider privating your account before posting or something like that, because once again, you're going to have the most impact on people inside of your own circle of influence, not necessarily just random people on the internet, right? But posting accurate information and stories from Gaza can be a great way to increase awareness and change hearts and minds. Do this at your own discretion. A great place to find resources to share on your social media is the USCPR's website. They have graphics, posters, videos, and the like that you can use. You can also go out and protest in support of Palestine if there's a protest like that in your community. However, you need to be extra careful in protesting since you run the risk of being injured by police or counter-protesters, or run the risk of being arrested. There is sort of a science to effectively protesting. So I'll send you a link, or I'll leave a link to a resource down below with some protesting guidelines and tips. One place to figure out if there are any protests in your area and where and when they are is the USCPR's website. But please note, this is obviously a list of protests inside of the United States. And finally, you can also join the BDS boycott of Israeli goods. Go to bdsmovement.net to find a list of what companies you should be boycotting. The goal of boycotting Israeli goods is to create additional economic pressure on Israel to end their system of apartheid as well as the siege of Gaza, like sanctions but imposed by consumers. You can also join people in boycotting McDonald's and Starbucks for their support of Israel. Those are some of the ways that you can get involved and help out the Palestinian cause. Thank you all so much for watching. Everything will be linked in the description for you. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and feel free to leave additional suggestions as to ways people can help Palestinians at this time. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one.